everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know how much we love digging into thought-provoking ideas about leadership and influence.
Absolutely.
So today, we're diving into Positions Are Not Possessions by David Adu.
Interesting choice.
It really got me thinking differently about how we approach leadership. Adu challenges this common tendency to get fixated on titles and positions.
Right, that kind of outward symbol of success.
Yeah, exactly. But he suggests there's a much deeper, more impactful way to approach leadership and influence. Have you ever felt that pull, that allure of a fancy title?
Oh, definitely. It's easy to fall into the trap of equating a position with, a sense of ownership.
Like you've earned it and now it's yours.
Exactly. But Adu argues that that very mindset can actually be limiting.
How so?
Well, he proposes that leadership positions, whether it's CEO or team lead, are less about possession and more about stewardship.
Stewardship. Okay, I like that.
It's about thinking of yourself as a caretaker.
Yeah, that's a thought-provoking way to look at it.
You're entrusted with something valuable.
Not just for personal gain, right?
No, it's for the benefit of something much larger.
The team, the organization, the community, maybe even.
Precisely. So thinking of it as a valuable resource that needs careful management.
And a focus on the long game, the impact.
Exactly. So it kind of begs the question, what kind of legacy do you envision for yourself in your current position?
Whoa, deep question. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But when you start thinking about that lasting impact, it shifts your perspective.
Completely.
Now, Adu points out that genuine leadership skills matter more than any title you could have.
It's about the substance, not the label.
He talks about empathy, communication, and decision-making as foundational elements.
Core skills. What stands out to you most about those?
You know what's fascinating? Adu doesn't just leave it at these kind of abstract concepts.
Right, he gets specific.
He illustrates their power through some pretty compelling real-world examples.
He does. I love the story about the leader who turned around a struggling team by prioritizing empathy.
Wow. Not just sympathy.
No, like really getting into the nitty-gritty of his team's needs and challenges.
It reminds me of a time I was leading a project and got so fixated on hitting deadlines,
Happens to the best of us.
I completely overlooked concerns my team was raising.
Oh, I've been there.
It wasn't until I really, truly listened to their perspectives that we were able to, course correct and succeed.
Powerful stuff, that active listening.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of leading from a place of, authority first. But Adu's emphasis on empathy really resonated with my own experience.
Absolutely. True leadership is about that human connection.
Understanding those motivations.
Finding ways to support others' growth.
Adu argues that this all requires a shift in mindset, moving away from seeing challenges as threats,
Ooh, good one.
and instead embracing them as opportunities.
For learning and development.
Exactly. He calls this a growth mindset, right?
That's it.
It's about constantly seeking to learn, evolve, improve, even if it means stepping outside our comfort zones.
It's not always easy.
It can be tough to let go of that need to always be right or appear perfect, but that growth mindset, it's gold.
You're right. And you know what Adu says is particularly important for growth? Building relationships.
Okay, yeah, relationships are key.
He sees them as the foundation of true influence.
Makes sense.
He argues that relying solely on the authority of a title, it can backfire,
Creating distance.
even resentment sometimes.
Yes. He has this great case study about a manager named Maria, right?
Yes, Maria. She was really struggling initially, leaning way too heavily on her title to get things done.
Classic mistake.
But then she shifted her focus to building those genuine relationships with her team, based on respect and trust.
Yeah.
Everything changed.
So we're talking about a pretty radical shift in perspective here, right?
It really is. Moving from this idea that we own our positions
Right, like it's a trophy we earned.
to a more, what's the word? Humble. Yes. A more humble approach. Seeing our positions as opportunities.
Opportunities to serve others.
Contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Okay, I'm hooked. I want to hear more. What else does Adu say about building that kind of influence?
Well, he introduces this fascinating concept called the currency of influence. Have you ever stopped to think about what really holds sway, in your workplace or personal life?
It's funny you say that because I tend to think of influence in terms of charisma,
Okay, yeah.
or maybe even a bit of, manipulation.
Sure. Sure.
But Adu seems to be suggesting something completely different.
He is. He's saying that instead of focusing on tactics or techniques,
Right.
the real currency of influence, it's built on a foundation of trust,
Mm.
respect, and the positive impact we have on others.
Wow, that's a really different way of thinking about
It
it.
is cultivating a wealth of genuine connections and contributions.
Not hoarding power or status.
That's the old way of thinking. This
Huh.
is a fresh perspective.
But building that kind of influence, that takes real work.
It's a journey.
It's not going to happen overnight.
You're right. And that's where Adu's framework of the 4 pillars of influential leadership comes in.
Okay, the 4 pillars. I'm intrigued.
He provides a roadmap. He helps you develop the qualities and skills necessary to become a truly impactful leader.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the first pillar?
The first, and perhaps most fundamental, is self-awareness. This goes beyond just knowing your strengths and weaknesses.
Deeper than that.
It's about understanding how your values, your biases, even your experiences shape your interactions with everyone.
He even suggests keeping a journal, right? To track your reactions.
To identify patterns in your behavior
Like holding up a mirror to yourself.
and really examining how you show up in the world.
Can be a little uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure. But ultimately, incredibly valuable.
I can see that.
You can't really build the other pillars without that solid foundation of self-awareness.
Makes sense. So what's the second pillar?
The second pillar, all about purpose.
Okay, purpose.
Adu argues that true leadership is driven by this clear sense of purpose.
Like a deep understanding of why you do what you do.
Exactly. It's not just about, ambition or climbing the corporate ladder.
It's got to be about something more.
Aligning your actions with something bigger than yourself.
Something that gives your work meaning.
Yes.
Yeah,
And fuels that desire to make a positive impact.
I like that. And that purpose, it doesn't have to be something grand, right?
Not at all.
It can be as simple as wanting to, I don't know, create a more supportive work environment.
Absolutely. Or mentoring someone to help them reach their full potential.
Okay, yeah. The key is that it resonates with your values, right?
Mhm.
And motivates you to contribute your best.
That's it.
This makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see how having that strong sense of purpose would not only drive our own actions, but also, inspire others to join us in making a difference.
And that brings us to the third pillar,
Ooh, what's number 3?
building authentic relationships.
We talked about this a bit earlier.
With Maria's story, yeah. But Adu goes deeper, provides specific strategies for cultivating that trust and connection.
Give me an example.
He talks about active listening, of course,
Mm-hmm.
empathy, and the courage to be vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
It can be surprisingly powerful, especially in a professional setting.
How so?
He also emphasizes celebrating the successes of others, recognizing their contributions
So fostering that culture of appreciation.
and collaboration.
I love that. It's easy to get so caught up in our own achievements that we forget to acknowledge the efforts of those around us.
It happens. But that genuine appreciation can go a long way in building those strong relationships.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got self-awareness, purpose, authentic relationships. What's the 4th and final pillar?
The 4th pillar is all about empowering others, which aligns perfectly with Adu's concept of servant leadership.
Okay, we haven't talked too much about servant leadership yet.
Right. It's about creating an environment where people feel supported, valued, and empowered to do their best work.
So delegating effectively, providing opportunities for growth and development.
Recognizing and rewarding contributions. Trusting people to do their jobs.
Giving them space to shine.
Letting go of that need to control everything and instead, focusing on creating a culture of shared responsibility and accountability.
This is a lot to take in.
It is.
But I appreciate how Adu's framework is so practical. It's actionable. It's not just theory, it's a set of tools and strategies.
Right. Things we can actually implement in our daily lives.
Whether we're leading a team, running a business, or just trying to make a positive impact in our communities.
And it all starts with that understanding. Positions are not possessions.
They're not trophies. They're not something to hold on to for dear life.
They're platforms. Platforms for service.
Opportunities to empower others.
Springboards for creating a lasting legacy.
So what does this all mean for our listeners, the folks who are listening who are eager to put these ideas into action?
What are those tangible steps they can take to cultivate their own currency of influence, to make a meaningful difference in their world?
That's the question, isn't it? What would Adu say?
I think he'd say it starts with self-reflection.
Okay, taking a step back.
Consider your own values, your purpose, the impact you want to have on the world.
And then what?
Then start looking for opportunities to practice these principles.
Active listening, empathy, celebrating others, empowering those around you.
Small, consistent actions, they can create a ripple effect.
That extends far beyond your immediate circle. Wow, that's powerful. It's a reminder that leadership isn't about grand gestures or, heroic acts.
It's about those everyday choices.
The choices we make to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Showing up with authenticity.
Integrity.
A genuine desire to make a positive difference. It's really interesting to think about how this whole idea of legacy, how it connects to our everyday actions.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about having some grand vision for the future way down the road. It's about, the small choices we're making right now, in this moment.
Yeah, the way we interact with others, those little things.
The values we embody.
Exactly. And you're right. It's so easy to think of legacy as this thing you build at the very end.
Like, once you've made it.
But you're creating it every day, right?
At the time.
So how do we make sure we're building a legacy that we can be proud of?
That's the question.
I feel like it goes hand in hand with this currency of influence idea we were talking about.
You're absolutely right. Adu argues that to really build a lasting legacy, we need to shift our focus
Okay.
away from those transactional relationships, the ones where you're always keeping score,
Oh, I know those types.
and towards building genuine connections,
Based on trust.
respect.
Got it.
It's about contributing to something bigger,
Yeah.
whether it's your team, your community, or even the world at large.
It's funny because when I think about the times I've been most influenced by someone,
Mhm.
it was never because they had some fancy title or, a ton of power.
It was something else.
It was because they genuinely cared. They listened,
They were present.
they offered support and guidance without, expecting anything in return.
That is a perfect example of what Adu calls the currency of influence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, charisma or manipulation tactics.
Yeah.
It's about the genuine impact we have on others,
It's about those little moments,
the trust we build,
the respect we earn.
the positive contributions we make.
So it's less about, what we can get from others and more about what we can give.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of a radical shift from the way leadership is usually portrayed, don't you think?
It is a shift, but Adu argues that it's absolutely necessary,
Okay.
especially if we want to create lasting, meaningful change.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that the traditional models,
Yeah.
they often focus on control, hierarchy, individual achievement.
Okay, I see that.
But he says true influence, it comes from empowering others, fostering collaboration,
Working together.
and creating a shared sense of purpose.
So what you're saying is, by focusing on serving others,
Yeah.
we actually gain more influence than by trying to, boss everyone around.
That's the idea. It seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you really think about it.
Think about the leaders you really admire, the ones you look up to.
Good point.
Are they the ones constantly asserting their authority?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they the ones who are inspiring, empowering the people around them?
That's what we're talking about.
The leaders I really admire
Yeah,
are the ones who lead by example.
absolutely.
They roll up their sleeves, they work alongside their team,
They get their hands dirty.
they celebrate other people's successes.
They make everyone feel valued.
respected, seen.
That's the kind of leadership Adu lays out in his 4 pillars.
Oh yeah, right. We were talking about those.
Self-awareness and purpose, we've already touched on.
Right.
But the other two, building authentic relationships and empowering others, they're just as crucial.
Can you unpack those a bit more for me? I'm really curious about how, he says we can put these principles into practice.
Of course. So with building those authentic relationships,
Yeah.
it's all about active listening,
Uh-huh.
empathy,
Being able to see things from someone else's point of view.
and being vulnerable.
Okay. Vulnerability. I'm still wrapping my head around that one.
It's about truly understanding other people's perspectives, even if you don't agree.
Right.
It's about being willing to share your own experiences, your challenges,
To create that connection.
a space for genuine connection.
Yeah.
Adu tells a great story about, I think it was a CEO,
Yeah.
who shared a personal story of failure with his team.
Wow, that's brave.
And instead of it diminishing his authority,
What happened?
it made him more relatable,
Oh, interesting.
more approachable.
I get it.
It strengthened the connection he had with his employees.
That's a perfect example of how vulnerability can actually, boost your influence.
Exactly.
When we let our guard down, we show our humanity.
It creates a space for others to do the same.
It builds that trust.
Deeper understanding.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
It's true. And so vulnerability is a powerful way to demonstrate that we care.
Okay, so that's building authentic relationships. What about empowering others?
So, for empowering others, Adu suggests delegating effectively,
Giving people real responsibility.
providing opportunities for growth and development, recognizing and rewarding contributions.
Makes sense.
It's all about giving people ownership over their work,
Yeah.
trusting them to make decisions,
Creating a safe space to, experiment.
take risks, learn from their mistakes.
I know in my own work, the times I've felt most empowered or when I had the freedom to try new things.
Absolutely.
Even if they didn't always work out, it was that freedom to explore that was so motivating.
And Adu argues that by empowering others, we unlock their potential.
Yeah.
But we also create a more engaged, more motivated team.
It's a win-win.
We've talked about these important things, building authentic relationships and empowering others.
Right. They seem super key.
But how does all this tie back to that idea of servant leadership? Remember we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, it does seem connected somehow.
It's actually the core of Adu's approach to leadership.
Oh, wow.
Servant leadership, putting the needs of others first,
Focusing on their growth.
their development, empowering them to achieve their full potential,
So leading from a place of service.
not from ego or power.
Yeah, I can see how that aligns with everything we've been talking about.
The empathy, the vulnerability, the genuine relationships, empowering others.
It's all connected.
Exactly. And Adu argues that when we embrace those principles of servant leadership, we create this, ripple effect,
A ripple effect of what?
positive change that goes way beyond ourselves.
It spreads outward.
He shares some really inspiring examples of servant leaders in action.
Like what?
A manager who mentored a struggling employee.
Yeah.
A CEO who volunteered his time at a local charity. It's not about grand gestures or, being a hero. It's about those everyday choices to put other people's needs first.
Yeah, I like that. Those small acts of kindness, those moments of support, they can have such a huge impact.
A profound impact on the lives of others.
And that's what building a legacy is all about, isn't it?
Leaving the world a little bit better than we found it
Making a difference in whatever way we can.
in the lives of those around us.
And it all starts with a shift in perspective.
That's
A shift from seeing our positions as possessions
right.
to viewing them as platforms for service.
Opportunities, not trophies.
So a shift from focusing on what we can get to what we can give.
Less about taking, more about contributing.
Less about seeking power and more about empowering others.
Those are powerful shifts.
They are.
And I think Adu makes a really strong case for why they're so important.
Yeah.
Not just for our own success, but for our teams, our communities, even the world.
I agree. This has been so eye-opening, honestly.
It has.
I'm already thinking about how I can apply these principles in my own life.
Great.
But before we wrap things up, there's one thing Adu mentioned that I wanted to get your take on.
Okay.
This idea that leadership is a journey, not a destination.
Ah, yes. That's such a crucial point.
It resonated with me.
There's no finish line.
Right.
It's a constant process.
Of learning, growing, evolving.
It's not about reaching some level of, mythical perfection.
It's about embracing the messiness,
The challenges,
the setbacks,
the opportunities for growth along the way.
You know what I find reassuring about that?
What's up?
It takes the pressure off. We don't need to have all the answers
Yep.
or be the expert all the time.
Exactly. It frees us up,
To be curious,
open to feedback.
willing to collaborate.
We're all works in progress, right?
Yeah.
With strengths, weaknesses, and we're all constantly learning and evolving.
This conversation has given me so many new ideas to think about.
That's what we love to hear.
I'm feeling really inspired to approach leadership in this new way, with a fresh mindset, focus on service, empowerment, building a legacy of positive impact.
Love it.
But before we completely wrap up, I want to hear from you, our listeners.
Yes, we want to hear from you.
What resonated with you most from our discussion today? What are you taking away?
We want to know your aha moments.
Share your thoughts and insights with us on social media. We'd love to keep this conversation going and learn from your experiences.
We love hearing from you guys.
And of course, if you're wanting to dive even deeper into all of this,
Yeah.
we highly recommend checking out David Adu's full book, Positions Are Not Possessions.
So many good insights in there.
Practical strategies.
It will definitely challenge your assumptions about leadership.
And inspire you to embrace this more impactful and fulfilling approach. This has been, wow, just a really eye-opening conversation, I gotta say.
It has been fascinating. Yeah.
Exploring these ideas with you about how we view leadership.
Really makes you think.
Adu's work, it really challenges us to rethink things, to be more intentional.
More purpose-driven, for sure.
One of the biggest takeaways for me is that leadership isn't about, wielding authority.
It's not about being the boss.
It's about empowering others, lifting them up.
Inspiring them.
Totally. Shifting our focus from controlling every outcome
Right.
to really cultivating the potential in the people around us.
That's where the magic happens.
What are your thoughts on that? Have you seen that play out in your own experience?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen firsthand how when leaders create that environment of collaboration and trust,
Yeah.
it just changes everything.
How so?
Team members feel valued. They're more motivated.
Like feel safe to speak up.
They're way more willing to bring their best ideas to the table.
Makes sense. When you feel genuinely respected and supported, you're more likely to step up and take ownership.
Definitely.
It's like you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, Adu's framework, those 4 pillars,
Mhm.
it gives us the tools to cultivate that kind of positive, empowering leadership.
Self-awareness, purpose, authentic relationships, empowering others.
Those are the ingredients, like you said, for a truly impactful legacy as a leader.
Thinking back on everything we've talked about,
Yeah.
is there a particular nugget of wisdom from Adu that really sticks with you?
That's a good question. The thing that keeps coming back to me is that idea that positions aren't possessions.
Good.
It sounds so simple,
It does.
but it's so profound when you really let it sink in.
So
It forces us to let go of that ego attachment,
it's
roles, status.
not about what we accumulate,
It's about the impact we have, the difference we make.
touching people's lives,
And that impact, it starts with those everyday actions, those little things,
how we treat each other,
the choices we make, the values we live by,
showing up authentically,
with integrity.
and that genuine desire to make things better.
That's what it's all about. It doesn't matter what your title is or what position you hold.
That's such an empowering message, It means that leadership isn't reserved for a select few.
We can all be leaders.
In our own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In our families, our communities, our workplaces.
I love that Adu encourages us to see leadership so much more broadly.
To break free from those old hierarchies.
We all have the potential to lead and inspire.
No matter where we are in life.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with? Something to inspire them to step into their own leadership potential.
To create a legacy they're truly proud of.
Good question.
I would say, remember that leadership is a journey.
Not a destination.
There's no endpoint. It's about constantly learning, growing, evolving.
Embrace the challenges along the way.
The setbacks.
Those are just opportunities for growth.
Be curious. Be open to feedback. And be willing to collaborate with others.
And lead with your whole heart.
With passion and a genuine desire to make a positive impact on the world.
I love that. That's fantastic advice.
And for our listeners who want to keep exploring these ideas, I'd echo what we said earlier.
Yes, definitely check out Adu's book, Positions Are Not Possessions.
It's such a thought-provoking read and full of practical strategies.
That will help you step into your own leadership in a powerful way.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of leadership and influence.